While we are waiting for the rail to dry, I'm going to start laying out my legs for the mortises that are going to accept the rails. So we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 per leg. So we got 16 mortises to cut just on the legs. So let's lay out that. Let's start that process of layout there. So we're going to get you a little bit closer. Yeah, my ugly mug and back on the board here. Okay, so we're going to call this the top. I'll go ahead and label this T for top and B for bottom, making sure that I put the marks on the board where no one will see it when we're done with the project. So go ahead and do that on all the boards. Call this the top. And then put the, there we go, tops. B's for bottoms, and that way we don't get confused and lay out the mortises on the wrong side. Okay, so my tops and bottoms are labeled. All right, we'll start with the tops. So make sure we're at the T for top. Set this aside. I'll just do one leg, and the process is the same for all of them. So what we're gonna do is come down on the top. We're gonna come down 2 inches. So grab my tape measure, come down 2 inches from the top. So that's a 2-inch line. And I'm gonna wrap that line around with my square. Pencil goes on the line, slide the ruler to the pencil. And then you've done this plenty of times before. We're just gonna wrap that line around the leg. And so there's our line, right? From here to here is 2 inches. And double check. And from there we'll start to lay out the mortise itself. So we're gonna come up and down 1 inch. So from that line I'm gonna come down 1 inch and up 1 inch. So I'm gonna put my line on the 2 and mark a line at 1 and a line at 3. So I'm gonna go ahead and make that mark and then show you what I've done. So there we are. So I went up from this line 1 inch. I went down from this line 1 inch. All right, so now I'll use those marks to transfer to the other side. And that will allow me to lay out 2 mortises on the top. All right, so that's what I'm looking like right now. All right, because I want a mortise here and I want a mortise here. I want them 90 degrees from each other, like this, right, like a table. Okay, so now I want to find the center of this. So I know the board's 1.5 inches. I'm sorry, yeah, 1.5 inches between my 2 fingers here. So 1/2 inch is 3/4 inch. So I'm going to mark out 3/4 inch from the edge of the board. So I'm going to put my ruler on any random number and then come over 3/4 inch from that random number, which is going to be right here. I know you can't see it, but I'll show it to you here. So there's my little line right there. And that's the center of this board, which in this case is 3/4 inch in from this edge and from this edge. Okay, so from that 3/4 inch mark, or the center, we want to come out 3/16 inch. So, grab my ruler again. From that mark, I'm going to put it on the 2 or any number and then count 3/16 out from that line. 1/16, 2/16, 3/16. This kind of gets a little difficult to see here, but I'll show you in a second. way in there. So that little mark right there and that little mark right there is 3/16 from the center. So again, from the center of that line, or the center of that board, we found the center. And then we're going to go over 3/16 and over 3/16. Okay, now we got to make those lines bigger. So you have two options here. If you're not used to this technique where you take your finger and put it against the edge of the board, line it up and make your mark, that's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is to take your square. Let's see if I can show you this here. And we're going to move our square down so it's on that line. This is where it gets tricky. You want to be on the line, but you want to be a little bit away from that line so the pencil has a little bit of room. There we go. So we're like this, and then we're going to take our pencil. Talk about awkward here. Okay, we're going to take our pencil here, and then we're going to make a mark like this. So we're going to use our square as a guide. So we're going to guide our square up and down that surface, and then we're going to also mark it with our pencil as we go. And I'll double check to make sure I'm in the center. So that looks good. That looks good. Okay, so we're in the center there. So there's our mortise layout. I'm going to repeat that process over here. With my square set, I can just transfer those marks down here. There we go. So I just used my square again and used my same settings to transfer my marks down on both sides. So it'd be helpful to keep your square set for that. That way you don't have to keep readjusting your settings. So that's the top. On the bottom, we are going to come up 4 inches, not 2 inches, and repeat that process. I'll have to go ahead and readjust my square because I didn't do this in the beginning, but that's okay. So I'll go ahead and make my mark, wrap that mark all the way around like I did in the top. All right, just the same way. This time it's 4 inches up from the bottom, not 2 inches up from the bottom. And the reason it's 4 inches up is because we want a little bit of gap on the bottom of our project there. So when our project's done, it kind of has that little space right here. Okay, so now we're going to do the same process. We're going to come up an inch, down an inch from there. So we're going to put it on 2 or any number you want, and then come up and down an inch. And then use our square again, and we're going to transfer those marks on 2 sides, the same side as our mortises, which I should have thought of that earlier. So let me remark those. So what I'm looking at here is I want to start on the same side as an existing mortise. So here my layout is, I want to draw on the same side as that would be helpful. But it's just pencil marks so far, so no harm. We'll go ahead and do a 1 inch and a 1 inch. And same process. Making sure that we're on the same side as our first mortises. I'll grab a measurement from here with my square. So I can transfer those measurements down. Same process. We want to get those layout lines lined up downstairs here on our mortises. So I'll do that, and then I'll do the rest of them off camera because it's the same process over and over again. And then we'll be ready to cut our mortises. All right.